Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Spawncast episode 362. We're missing Evan tonight. He'll be back next weekend. He's at like a LAN party, so we'll miss him. We'll be back next weekend, and then we'll deal with Sean at some point. He's off the podcast, so that's just the way it goes. MVG came in strong actually a minute ago and was like, he's out. Get him out of here.
Which sucks, man, because I actually, despite everything that happened, I like him being here, so whatever.
Get him out of here. Oh, look, he's in the chat now.
Oh,
Sean,
look,
he's in the chat. We wrote up a restraining order for a reason, Sean.
He's in the chat, but he won't come on the cast. I see how it is. That's fine, buddy. I'll take care of it. I got this. No worries.
People think he got kicked off because he was getting like canceled, or I don't know, something was happened to him on Twitter. People thought he got kicked off because of that. It's like, no, it's WrestleMania weekend. Sean's not showing up. I'm sorry, Sean's not showing up on WrestleMania weekend
because he doctored a tweet.
Yeah, that was so funny. He got community noted. That was crazy.
Did he? I had to point that out. I was like, yo, Sean getting community noted is wild.
That was funny though, because he said it was just like, I got community noted. Like, hey,
that was great.
That was an achievement unlock right there, man.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. We'll see what Sean returns, but WrestleMania weekend. I mean, he said he was in his underwear in his bed at 1 in the afternoon. So I don't know if he's gonna show up on a podcast. So
then his grandma came over.
Yes. So we'll see him. We'll see him at some point, I'm sure. But yeah, I got some people here. We can talk about some games tonight. I know WrestleMania is going on, so hey, if you're here, even though WrestleMania is going on, appreciate it. Shout out to you. It's I'm sure it's very exciting right now based on what's happening online, all the trending stuff. So people seem to be having a good time with it. And I know it's 2 nights, so it's tonight and then it's also tomorrow night. So we should have just done. That's what we should have done a completely out of context WrestleMania watch along, and we all attempt to like decipher what's happening while it's going on there, but maybe next year. We'll have Josie just explain it to us. She's the only one who can watch it. She has to explain it to us while we listen.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go around here. We're gonna start with MVG.
Hello.
Good to have MVG here. Had a good conversation actually yesterday about Rebirth, which is going to be going up soon. We had 2 videos. We had one non-spoiler and one full-on spoiler. Talked about the ending, everything. And I had to search for a bit actually to find somebody who also beat Rebirth. Although MVG beat it a lot faster than I did. So, but it was a good conversation. It'll be up on the network here pretty soon. But good to have MVG here. Got some emulation stuff in the news here, MVG. So I'm curious your take on that. And a few other things. We also have Mystic Ryan. Ryan's here.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Your cat's up on the table.
Yep, as she often likes to explore and run the place.
Good to have Ryan here. Did a video on it was like a PlayStation bus.
I
saw a thumbnail.
That was my last minute, like, I need to like do something this week kind of thing, because I'm still working on like 2 things that are taking way too long.
Okay. Well, I mean, I was interested. I hadn't seen that. I guess it went up and someone's trying to sell it for way too much money. So
yeah, it was just me being silly.
The thing looked kind of gross. So I don't know if I'd spend that much money on it, but yeah, I mean, it was interesting. I remember those buses going around when they were like really doing it to where you could try the things out on the bus.
Yeah.
But hey, if you want it, you could get it, drop it in your backyard. There you go. We also have Josie with us tonight.
Yep. Happy to be here. Yes.
Good to have Josie here. And then, of course, we have OJ holding up the pre-show.
Oh, good to be here.
Good to have OJ here. So we, like I said, we have a bunch of stuff to go over tonight. There is rumors around a PlayStation showcase. I don't think it's going to shock anyone, but I did want to touch on that. Of course, with Ryan here as well, who can maybe give us some insight as to what we should be expecting with that one. We also had Xbox. Xbox just constantly getting beaten down, I swear. Xbox, some controversy over there, an upcoming release, but I do have to ask the question, how big of a deal is it really? Apple approving emulators on the iOS store, which at first it didn't read like a big deal, but I really thought about it. That is kind of a big deal. And then this is the week where the 3DS and the Wii U get shut down, and there's some really weird stuff happening this week from the Wii U, and I almost feel like people are misremembering exactly what that time period was, but we'll
that tweet.
we'll get to that one. I must have been in some other timeline.
Tweets, not just one tweets. People just making stuff up.
I don't know. Nomura must have gotten a hold of that timeline. But we'll go over that one as well. But of course, I do want to remind everyone we do have the Spawncast Network where we're posting up we'll have our Rebirth discussion here pretty soon. Josie, you had Game and Talk last week.
Yes, it was great.
Yeah, how'd
Yes.
that go anyway? Can you fill me in on that while I?
Yeah, we just talked about our top 20 retro games. We all collectively made a list together because there's not a lot going on in Nintendo right now. So that was super cool. And
Little homie wants to be on the cast.
no.
We can replace him with Sean. What are you
I was
going to
say that's a good replacement for Sean.
Better replace. He's smarter than him. I can tell you that right now. I'm joking. Sean, love you. Bulls beat the Knicks.
Game and Talk was great. We launched memberships. You should check it out. It's very fun.
Thank you, Josie. Thank you. And I do want to give shout outs to some of the producers over on the network. We have Trent A, William Hogue, The Game Orb, Mr. Joby, Joshua Butts, and of course, John O. So shout out to them. You can check that out over on spawncastnetwork.com, patreon.com/spawncast. So let me move over real quick to this because this one is pretty, I think, straightforward. I don't think it's shocking to anyone, but coming from Jeff Grubb mentioning that the PlayStation Showcase is, it is understanding there's at least a PlayStation event in May, and that would coincide with what they did last year, where they had things like Concord, Fair Games, I believe, announced there. But they would have an event in May. I'm thinking probably the second half of May, so we're probably like 6 weeks away from it. But is that at all surprising to you, Ryan?
No, not even a little bit.
Okay. I saw that news, and I was like, yeah, I feel like we've kind of been talking about Sony as if they were going to have an event in May this whole time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's plenty of things that they need to show. And by need, I mean, like, if they're planning on shipping Concord this year, then if they don't show a trailer in May, then I would assume that game's either not coming or delayed. Grubb mentioned an Astro Bot game. I was expecting that late last year, so it sounds like that might be the sort of smaller scale game that will ship by the end of this year, or maybe Q1 25, because that still falls under that like spectrum of we're not shipping major sequels until the next fiscal year, which would run to the end of March 2025. But something like Astro, they consider in their eyes smaller, even though it's an existing IP. So there could be that, and that's still also open enough to include second party things like Silent Hill 2 needs to get a release date, considering that last State of Play only had a combat trailer and still no release date, which seemed very bizarre at the time. But you got to figure that's going to get a release date, and then maybe a few other, I feel like everything else in terms of Sony's first party could be a sort of wild card as to if they're going to show a teaser or a trailer, but that could all be, slated for the back half of 2025 and beyond.
It seemed like there was some weird stuff going on. I think you even kind of looked at that image a little sideways. The talk between it was like the developers for Silent Hill and then Konami. It seemed like they were a bit at odds there, which was weird. They're like, the trailer that was put together did not show the game well, which was weird. But we're expecting Silent Hill out this year.
Yeah, I think so.
Like that
seems like it's coming. And hopefully we'll have a better showing of it at the showcase.
Yeah, they kind of like it. I don't know. It was kind of weird when they were showing it there. But even Bloober Team, there's still some concerns, I guess, maybe some doubts even around them for if they can really pull off. I mean, a game that people love, like Silent Hill 2. Whenever I see anyone talk about PS2 back in the day, I do hear Silent Hill 2 come up in the conversation. So it's obviously one that people remember fondly. So if they mess it up, it's not going to be good. It's not.
I mean, it already kind of, I don't want to pass judgment on something that we haven't played or seen yet, but like the second the first trailer came out, like a lot of the Silent Hill community was already like, nope, like I'm out.
They don't want it remade even? They don't even want it touched.
And I mean, maybe there's something to be said about revitalizing the combat, but like the certain ambiance and appearance of the characters and the setting, and
the thing
right
is,
away,
though,
everyone kind of checked out immediately.
The thing is, though, Silent Hill was never renowned for its combat. It's pretty clunky. The original game is like you've got this stick and you just kind of whack it, right, until you get some better upgrades. Like, I don't feel like the combat is really the focal point of what Silent Hill is. And while I do agree that the combat didn't show very well in those initial trailers that we saw, I think people are really kind of hung up on the combat stuff versus just a good remake of the original story. So, look, I'm not saying it's going to be good or it's going to be bad. I do think it needs to have a better presentation to kind of impress people a little more than the last showing. But I don't know, man. Like, I feel like Silent Hill was never really about the combat, and people are so hung up on why it didn't look very good this time around.
You know, I was also thinking, okay, so Silent Hill should be there. It also got a rating. We're pretty much expecting that release date to show up then in May. Metal Gear, that's supposed to also come out this year. So, I mean, I know that's multi-platform, but like Sony seems to be kind of putting it like with their PlayStation alongside it, like Microsoft's trying as well with their Xbox, but that'll be a big one even to show at that showcase or state of play. But you mentioned Concord. Here's the thing with that, Ryan. You know, I know Helldivers 2 kind of caught Sony by like surprise a bit with how successful it's been. The one issue or concern I would have had for Sony with all these live service initiatives is if they have one that really takes off and then you start pushing more of them out the door, it does kind of have that feeling of trying to pull the player in a bunch of different directions. I almost wonder if Concord could wait a little longer just because Helldivers 2, just the content keeps coming out for it too. It's very consistent right now.
I don't know. I wouldn't put too much weight in that, if only because they're pretty diversified in the kinds of live service games that we're expecting out of them. Concord's going to be a first-person sci-fi shooter, which at least for PlayStation, that's a little bit interesting in that we haven't had a traditional first-party FPS sci-fi game since Killzone Shadowfall on PS4 back in 2013. So, and Sony historically just doesn't really care about that sort of thing. They'll line things up right next to each other, even if there is this, idea that maybe there's like a cannibalization or mind share being stolen away. They just don't care. They'll ship things right near each other. Like 2020, we had Tsushima and Last of Us Part 2 back to back. Helldivers 2 shipped with Foamstars for PS Plus Essential. And some people, thought that was like kind of an odd decision at the time, but they just, if it's ready, they put it out there. So if Concord's ready, I think they'll put it out.
Anyone still playing Foamstars?
No,
you just remind me that it even exists.
Played the tutorial in one match, and that was it.
Yeah, that's about how it was for me. It's like, I think I'm good.
I was about to say, the gameplay was just not there,
I thought people liked the beta.
No.
I didn't play the beta. I can't tell. I didn't play the beta.
I don't even know what you do in that game, man. Like, it doesn't. None of it makes any sense.
I played the beta, and there was certain people that were trying to Colt Eastwood it on Twitter and stuff, and I think that's where where you got some like putting up like clips and stuff like that. But then like when you actually play the game yourself, it doesn't even make sense when you play it. Like it's hard to see. People are like clipping things and cutting together certain trailers, like trying to like work for Square Enix when it comes down to it or something. I don't know. But yeah, it's Foamstars. I mean, I don't think anybody cares really, right? Like,
I think people just forgot about it already.
I feel like I don't remember too well, but you don't get damaged if you get hit, like if you're in the other player's foam, right? That was like a weird.
No,
you just move slower.
You move way slower, and I think you're more susceptible to damage too.
Okay, but you have to be directly shot. I feel like they just missed the point of Splatoon.
They have to cover you in foam, and then when you're covered, the person has to roll in and hit you with their surfboard or whatever.
Right.
And then you go flying to the wall and you explode. That's how you basically knock someone out.
So you have to like really put yourself in danger to get kills, right? Like you have to go over there and like run right into them, which was just. I just didn't like the reload. I didn't like the reloading in the game. That was really my big hang up because it just paused the action. Well, it was a hero. Like it's like the hero shooter thing, right? Like it's tied to weapons are tied to a certain character, so you can't like customize and mix and match in that type of way. I also think people got pissed off with the microtransactions, like the whole. Even though it was all optional, and there's plenty of stuff that you can get in the game. Like there was like crazy microtransactions in the game.
Some were expensive,
Yeah. People were like, "What the hell's that?"
Ryan, you mentioned Astro Bot.
Mm-hmm.
It's not VR, right? Like it's going to be its own 3D platformer.
I would assume it might be like a 2D and VR thing.
Oh,
I would hope.
Man.
Well, that's the best way to do it, right? I mean,
I
something
guess,
for PSVR2 owners. You don't want to lock it to PSVR2. I mean, you don't want that. Yeah. No. And I think it would be great to have like for Sony to test the field with like a more premium Astro Bot game that everyone can play, since it really hasn't had the chance to do that. Free to play on PS5 for every console shipped, which gave the IP so much exposure.
Right.
Initially, it was part of the PlayStation camera on PS4 launch day, which nobody got the chance to play. Then Rescue Mission for PSVR, nobody had the chance to play. So having a priced Astro Bot game, I'm actually pretty excited for that idea. I would like to see how well it does.
Team Asobi is very talented. If you play that on the PS5, it looked really clean. It took advantage of all the extra features for the PS5 with the DualSense, showed it off nicely, and it was fun.
I think it's one of the best free pack-ins for a game.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh yeah. You could make the case that it's one of the better games on the PS5 in terms of like exclusives for the console. You can make that case. But obviously the scope was limited for that game. They had an idea to show off the PS5 with it, and that's kind of what they did. They actually put some money behind it and try to do a big 3D platformer. I think that could be really cool.
Yeah, I'm excited for it.
It would add some diversity, I would say, to their lineup as well, since people look at it as a third person over the shoulder action narrative experience with the PS5. Astro Bot just completely stands out from that. So I would like that. That to me would be a big title to reveal there, even coming out this year. So if they could have that, Concord, Silent Hill, some third party stuff, I think they would they'd actually be able to make it through 2024 pretty well.
Do you think Astro Bot has the potential to be like the PlayStation mascot, sort of?
It's kind of like that.
Yeah, I kind of do, because it has the PlayStation colors now, right? Like it's the PS5 color scheme for Astro. Appeals to a wide audience.
There's still not really a super defined PlayStation mascot. There really never has been. There's some that are like up top, like that being Aloy or Kratos or Ratchet, but there's always been like so many names associated with the brand. But it does seem like they're trying to make Astro something, which I'm not pushing back. I like him.
I always felt, at least it's been Kratos. That's just, and I know there's been, but Kratos has always been like the person that I associate with PlayStation for the past 20 years. That's just kind of how I feel about when I think it's like Kratos is like he's like the guy, right? So
that's a good question when you think of like when you think of PlayStation, what's the character that would come to mind as its mascot? And I guess for me, it would either be Ratchet or it would be Kratos.
That's what I'm saying, though. If you survey 100 people, you're probably going to get people saying Mario for Nintendo, Halo for Xbox, and PlayStation's probably going to be a different split. Some might be like really high, like Kratos, but I imagine PlayStation a lot of different names show up to different people.
Yeah,
you think people start writing down Crash Bandicoot?
Yeah, it could happen for sure.
Probably. I know I did before. Like, I think at one point I would have said, Crash Bandicoot, but that was in like the PS1
generation.
Yeah, I would have said, Crash Bandicoot, hands down. But not anymore. But for me, it's like Kratos, because it's like God of War is like, it's like the combination of everybody knows who Kratos is, right? Like when you see Kratos, you're like, oh yeah, that's Kratos. And then like the sales too. It's like the popularity of Kratos is at an all-time high, right? Like between God of War 2018 and God of War Ragnarok, like the sales blew up way better than the PS2 days and the PS3 days.
What about Cloud?
Like Final Fantasy.
Cloud can't. That would be like a PS1 thing to me, right? Like for me at least, that would be like
Rebirth and Remake, man. It's not, you can't play anywhere else.
But those are probably going to come. Those are PC too, so I don't know. I just don't see it that way.
It's an association thing.
Yeah, and Cloud's been on other platforms too. Like Cloud's on other platforms a lot.
It doesn't mean shit, because that's what MVG is saying. It's such a PlayStation staple. That's why Sony paid boatloads of money to keep this game exclusive to their platform.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I guess you could look at Cloud and kind of see Sony's logo next to them at times. Yeah.
Sony never owned Crash, but a lot of people 20 years ago would say Crash. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I just kind of, like I said, with the exclusivity thing. But it's just hard for me also with that, because it's like, PlayStation All-Stars and like, He's not in the game. So it's like, I don't know. I just
didn't know him.
He's in Smash though, isn't he?
He's in Smash. That's why it's just hard for me to associate Cloud completely with PlayStation like that, because like he's not in. I mean, there's a lot of weird characters.
Do you associate Banjo with Nintendo or Xbox?
See,
man.
that's a
I
spicy one.
associate Banjo with Nintendo.
Yeah, me
be
too.
honest.
Actually,
I mean,
that says a lot about if they say Xbox or Nintendo. I think that's pretty revealing from like the generation they feel most fond for.
But it's just because most of the games have came to Nintendo platforms. Like they have only done like one actual new Banjo game on Xbox, right? That's just nuts and bolts.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be sort of like Bayonetta? Like Bayonetta's on Xbox, but now it's like
Nintendo.
more, now it's more of a Nintendo thing, right? It was on the first one was on all.
Well,
consoles.
the first and second, or the first one was on on Xbox, but like the last 2 or 3 games have been exclusive to Nintendo. So
right.
Yeah.
It was also on the PS3, and it was a terrible port.
Oh gosh, that port was so bad.
It was pretty bad. I mean,
they
patched it. They patched it, but it's not good. It's not a good port.
That's a video idea that I've got in mind.
Bayonetta.
Looking at the Bayonetta PS3 port.
Yeah,
you should definitely do that.
Please greenlight that, because I would love to see your take on that.
You should do what I did to the PS3 downstairs, MVG. Overclock that thing.
Go on. You overclocked a PS3?
Yeah, you can do that.
Does it help?
Yeah, it actually does. It does actually. It does. No, it does. You can overclock the PS3, and you know what? It's all software.
What does it run Bayonetta at?
I didn't try that one. Like Uncharted and stuff, it does run better.
But they run good anyway. You got to try the really unperforming games like Red Dead and Bayonetta and Orange Box. They're the ones you got to try out, John.
Yeah, just they get pretty, like the chips get kind of hot. So I only recommend doing it to a slim, and you have to like delid the heat spreaders on those, and that is not a great idea for most people because it will destroy the chips on those. But you can overclock it though. It's a custom firmware MVG. You like load it up, and you just flash it. That's it. So, and you have the frame rate program, so you could actually like get the charts out and compare them. That would be a cool video.
Is this the Evil Nat firmware, the custom firmware that you saw?
It might be.
Because I have that, but I didn't know it had overclocking abilities on there.
Yeah, there's like a full overclocking custom firmware you can load up. So
I have to check that out.
Yeah, people have some comparisons on YouTube, but it's not like a wide range of different games. I don't think Bayonetta's ever really been tested. So that would actually be a good one to see if you can brute force your way to a solid 20 frames per second in that game. That'd be good.
Definitely benchmark a lot of the early third-party stuff. That's all of it runs very bad. And GTA 4 in particular, too.
Oh, yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, GTA 4, definitely. Let me let me move over to Hellblade 2. We'll go through this because this is the Xbox controversy again. Man, Xbox has not been able to catch a break recently. So we did have news that Hellblade 2 is going to run at 30 frames per second, dynamic resolution, no option for performance mode. So there's not going to be a 60 FPS mode with this one. Now, remember, this game is already going to be coming in at a cheaper price point. It's going to be digital only. And they did mention it's like 7 or 8 hours or something. So it's not like a longer game either. But they did give reason as to why it's 30 frames. And they said this from the VFX director saying in an interview with GamePro that the experience should feel more cinematic, similar to movies that run at 24 frames per second. And that's why it's at 30 frames per second, which reminds me very much of Assassin's Creed. If you remember with Unity, we had Ubisoft. I think it was a world designer who had a quote where they said, if you watch something like The Hobbit at, I think it was like 48 frames, it looks off. And that's how they felt about 60 frames per second in games at the time. So that's why Unity was 30 frames as well.
My mind went to Order 1886 because that was like almost exactly the same PR back in the day. Is that the game is
cinematic? Yeah,
cinematic and referencing movies, and that was a big thing. It's very similar in a sense too, because the Order is also a very short game as well. So I don't know. I immediately thought of that.
The key thing you said there, Ryan, was back in the day. This is 2024. What are we doing here?
It's 9 years ago.
I do have some other information for it. Just to be fair, the combat, all the fight animations are fully mocapped. The fights will all be one-on-one. So you're just going to fight one person at a time. They do have increased enemy variety types and new attack animations, everything for Senua. They have environmental puzzles. There is a photo mode. And the previews were extremely positive and specifically pointed out it being one of the best looking games they've ever seen in gaming, like straight up visually. It's like on that level. But 30 frames. It seems like it's kind of been a trend recently for Microsoft, which is very unfortunate for their PR leading up to a game's release, where we had Redfall, which was a first-person shooter, and that's probably with what they were trying to accomplish there. That was probably the worst one to hear it's 30 frames, but that was 30 frames on launch. They've patched it since, but if it's not at launch, it's going to be tough to win people back. We've already gone over that. And then Starfield was 30 frames, and now we're hearing that Hellblade 2 is going to be 30 frames. All of this after their lead up to the Xbox Series X release, that 60 frames is going to be more of a target or standard, as has been said in some tweets from executives at Microsoft, will say. And that's tough. But I do have to ask, is it that big of a deal for a game like Hellblade 2 based on the gameplay that we've seen so far and their focus around it being a narrative title?
Yes and no. I think no, in that we kind of knew, well, I kind of felt like this was going to be a 30 FPS experience due to the nature of the game itself and the underlying tech that's being used. Plus, it's a UE5 title as well. So I never really felt like it was going to be 60. But on the flip side, why isn't it 60 frames per second, right? Because this is not an open world game. This is kind of a smaller linear game. That's what I think they said it was kind of roughly the size of the first game, or maybe just a bit longer, something along those lines. It's a smaller bite-sized thing. So why couldn't they get 60 FPS on this thing, right? Like, I think, you're in combat with like one enemy, and I think the kind of the world that they put you in isn't that big as far as the overarching biome that you're in at the time. So I did question why they didn't do that, and I guess I also question why didn't they do like a 40 FPS mode, for people
that's a good point.
120 FPS displays, 120 hertz displays. Like, just give a little bit more, right? And maybe the underlying issue was they couldn't get a lock 60, which, hey, I totally understand that. So they had to, settle for a smooth 30, which is totally fine. But I am curious as to why they didn't, explore maybe the 40 FPS option for 120, hertz displays. But for me, John, I'm probably just going to play it on PC, on my PC here at 60. Did the same thing for Redfall, which I felt was the best experience to play that game. So I think I'm going to just do the same thing here with Hellblade 2.
So if this game comes out and it's 30 frames, but visually it's this incredible looking thing, like you've never seen anything like it. I do wonder if for some people visuals can overcome that frame rate, because there are people who play at graphical fidelity in games where they have options and they'll just settle for the 30 frames. And a lot of times it's just they bought this new console and they want to see what it can do. So I do wonder if that's, I was waiting for Ryan. I was waiting for you, Ryan, because I know you did that with Horizon. I think you mentioned that to me. I don't
mind it. I mean, I'm like anybody else. I'll always take 60. If it's stable, if it's unstable, I'll take the 30. If it's like locked and if there's like a really big difference and like depending on the context of gameplay, then I'll opt for 30. Like Demon's Souls, there was no way I wanted to play that game at 30. Horizon wasn't bad at 30, but I could do it. Ratchet, I had no problem playing 30. It just felt like another run-of-the-mill like PS2 platformer that we're all, well, not to be, in fairness, Ratchets on PS2 were 60 for a long time and PS3. Yeah. But there's like a lot of PS2 games that like that generation is primarily 30. So that game I had no problem doing 30, and I felt that the blurriness was maybe not. Like I think the game was more enjoyable with it being just as crisp looking as it was, because it's like basically playing a Pixar film at that point. But yeah, I mean, I understand that for a lot of people, it's like, let's get 60 going. But we're getting further into that generation where I think I would assume, based on whatever it is they're trying to do with this game, like really push it, as MVG said, maybe they can't get a stable 60. I would just assume that's kind of where we're getting. We're going to have more and more examples of games that are not going to be able to reliably hit 60 more often than not. And it's just a decision that a lot of studios make, that, it's like, oh, we're only doing 30 because PR aside, this bad PR was probably going to happen to anybody that announced this, right? Like,
yeah,
Remedy got flack for it with Alan Wake 2, despite how much positive buzz was going into that. Alan Wake 2 Dragon's Dogma 2 was not getting any sort of, pass on this. So maybe it looks especially bad for Microsoft, but there was gonna be pushback.
It's interesting you bring up Dragon's Dogma 2, Ryan, because we just got done with that game, and that got a lot of pushback for everything seemingly but the performance, although that was still also coming in, but it was all about like the microtransactions. That is a game that people are just playing at this weird 30 to 40 frames per second like interval where it's all over the place. You can cap it now, but I mean, people are looking at that like, well, the game's good enough to overcome that, I guess.
That's
the 30 frames thing.
If something's good enough, like GTA 6 comes out and it's 30 on consoles.
What I was gonna say. I was gonna say this.
I mean, come on. I mean, I hate to be that guy, but sometimes this conversation of 30 versus 60 is like kind of exhausting. Like, well, I mean,
it's like the thing I run into with that, Ryan, is when you have
not to go back in circles, Ryan. Like, you're comparing an open world game, GTA 6, to again a smaller linear experience that's going to have smaller corridors, smaller geometry, smaller world, less enemies, less physics, less everything, right? So I don't know. Like, we don't know the internals of what went on during the development of Hellblade 2 and what they were able to accomplish. But it's very hard to compare it to something like GTA 6, which we have a pretty good idea that it's probably going to run at 30 FPS because of the nature of the game itself.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to compare it on a technical level. That comparison was more just consumer perception, I guess, was the point I was getting across. But you're right. I mean, I don't know why they can't at the very least offer what John said, a 40 FPS mode. I think that's a great compromise, and I think more studios should be doing something like that. If that's the compromise we have to make for, like, again, if they can't hit a reliable 60, even if the game on paper is this very linear thing with like tight combat sequences. But we don't work at the studio. No idea what exactly they're doing to push this game to make it that way. Like, I don't know what the deal was with the order either. Yeah, that game must have been doing. I mean, it had much larger open areas compared to like what we're expecting out of Senua. If it's anything like the first game, the first game's very linear. So,
how long after the PS4 launched when the order came out? A couple of years.
It was a 2015 game.
So it was 2015.
2 years in, basically.
Yeah. Ready at Dawn was also a second-party studio at the time, so they were well trusted. They probably got a lot of help from Sony to get a lot out of the hardware and the dev kit, and I would assume they had a lot of direct support from Sony to get a lot of mileage out of what they were trying to do with that game, because it really is, even today, a showstopper. It looks.
I loaded that game up when I did that PS4 video. That was one of the games that I popped in to install. It does actually still look pretty good. Like, it's shocking when you look at it. Like, really, this nuts. Is a 2015 game? Really?
It's nuts looking.
It's pretty surprising when you turn it on, like the intro and stuff with it. But if you do want a look at, you mentioned MEG Unreal Engine 5 for this game.
Mm-hmm.
There is a 60 FPS Unreal Engine 5 game that is widely available right now, actually, to people, to where you don't technically have to buy it. And it's on the PS5 right now. It's Immortals of Avium. That is 60 FPS, and it's UE5. If you get a chance, install it, load it up, and tell me what you think of the image quality in that game.
I was going to say that.
Something that I noticed when I was playing it on my Xbox, and it's very similar on the PS5 there, is it's not great. The image quality, it's pretty blurry, and I was like throwing me off. I'm like, man, okay, it's fluid, it's 60, but it doesn't look very good. Like it's just grainy and blurry, and I guess they decided we're going to turn the resolution down because we want this to be like Call of Duty with magic, and that's what they did. So is this an Unreal Engine 5 thing, MVG?
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's an Unreal Engine 5 thing, right? I don't really know what this is. I mean, I think we really just need to learn more about, what went on during the development of this. Maybe DF can shed some more insight on it when the game comes out. I don't want to put the blame on Unreal Engine 5. I mean, Fortnite runs in UE5, doesn't it? So,
yes.
So I think it's really just about, the amount of tech that they kind of pushed into this game, and maybe the cinematic experience concept was what they were aiming for the whole time. And I guess there's something to be said about if you say, look, we're going to make this a cinematic experience, it's going to be 30 FPS on console, then you kind of take away that, that time and money that you have to spend optimizing this game to run at 60, right? I'm not saying developers were lazy. I'm just saying maybe they just made that decision from the get-go that it was going to be a 30 FPS cinematic experience, and they just ran with it. And they basically pushed as much tech into the game as they could. And, for all intents and purposes, it sounds like it's going to be one of the most impressive-looking games we've ever seen on consoles to date. That obviously does remain to be seen, but there's a lot, there's a lot of previews that are going on about how good this game looks. So, I guess we'll have to see when it comes out and make our own determination on, because we may fire it up and say, yeah, I can see why this game was never going to be 60, right? Because it looks so damn good, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Right.
Do you guys think that the movie thing, the cinematic experience thing, is just like a crutch? Because that's kind of what it sounds like to me. Because
Maybe.
Why could they not, they want a cinematic experience, you make the cutscenes 24 or 30 FPS, you make the gameplay sections 60, right? They're different mediums.
Well, they want the cinematic experience while you're playing, like you're playing.
That is not a thing, though. That's not a thing, right?
No, but that's what they want. That's what I think.
But
I think that's what they want.
I see what you're saying. I do kind of feel like that was sort of, I guess you say an excuse. I don't think that's the real reason why it's 30.
Well, no,
I don't think so.
I think that they want to push for 30 because they want this cinematic. Did you read the description of what they said?
Not really, to be honest.
About the game?
No.
I'm just saying, if you
I've
can.
been busy. I'm sorry.
Okay, no. I'm just saying, the description says, hey, look, it's going to be all about these one-on-one battles, right? One-on-one battles. It's not super fast-paced. It's not anything like that. So, I mean, if the input delay isn't bad, if the response timing is fine, and they want to go for that, that's fine. I mean, they probably could have done a 60 frames per second mode, but maybe like MVG says, they didn't do it. But people who like Hellblade are going to play the game regardless. If you like Hellblade, you're going to play it. So,
but the thing with that is it's going to be most likely 60 frames on the PC. They should they should do is they should lock the PC version to 30. They need to do that.
Oh yeah, that'll go down well.
Right?
Someone's gonna just hack the config files and get it at 60 anyway.
Well, then we got to get. Well, you're right, but we got to get Denuvo on there. Then
you can't.
We got to get the DRM going.
John,
okay,
please.
I'm just trying to keep the cinematic vision alive, MEG. It's just funny they said that, but then it's gonna run at 60, probably 120 on someone's PC somewhere. I don't know. It sounds to me like the Xbox Series X is going to show a really visually impressive game. It's also very demanding, and it's going to be 30 because of that. So,
do you think it's something where they will? It's just they're not going to. It's not a day one thing. Eventually they'll offer it, because I'm more inclined to believe, I guess, the point MVG brought up, which is maybe just from the very onset the studio decided we're not even going to attempt to just on console, we're going for 30. So there's no resources being put into it right now from start to finish.
Did we ever get the Redfall 60 patch for consoles?
Yes,
we did.
We did.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It's a really good question, right? I don't know, man. Another thing that I keep thinking in my mind is the developers maybe said, look, we can do 60, but we need 6 more months, to get this in there, and Microsoft higher up said, "No, we got to ship this game," because it's. I mean, it was announced with the with the launch of the Series X back in, was it 2019?
Yeah.
Like, this game has been in development for a long time. This is, we're talking a long, long time. So maybe they just said, look, you got to get this game out.
Yeah, it's not a full price game either. So in their mind, it's like, come on, we gotta get this thing shipped, guys. Let's go. Let's get this thing in the Game Pass. Let's get it for sale. Let's get moving here. So that might be a point. You're right, MVG, where they're thinking, 60 FPS patch can come later. It's fine.
But if we're still on this thing of it being cinematic, which I know we're not, but I'm just saying, like, that would prove that it was an artistic choice, right? Because they want
absolutely.
it to be 60, and then the idea would be sort of a crutch.
The thing is, though, if I was making a game and it was only running at 30 and they asked, why don't you run it at 60, I'd give the same response.
Yeah, no, it's a good excuse, but it is an excuse, right? It's not like a purposeful thing that they wanted to do in the beginning.
I'll remember that, MG, for when you get cornered at like a PAX or something, and they're asking you why your new game is 30.
Yeah, it's a cinematic experience. We're going for that filmic look. We'll have the chronic aberration, and all that stuff going on to make it look like a movie.
Motion blur.
Yep.
100. Gosh. That I think I think everyone roasted the Assassin's Creed developer, the PR person, when they said that. People are roasting Ninja Theory's person for saying, it's
not. We've
been here before.
I don't think
been here,
30
done that.
frames is playable. Like, I have a Switch, like, exclusively play on my Switch. Like, I understand. Like, I'm totally okay with that. But I'm just saying, like, it's an excuse.
Yeah, the thing that I always find is funny now are like the 60 FPS absolutists that comment about this stuff. Like, I can't play anything that's 30. And in my mind, every time I hear that, I'm like, we'll see what happens next year when GTA 6 comes out.
But it's always, but but GTA is a whole different thing. It's like, well, GTA is different because, like MVG said, it has all this other stuff. So that one gets a pass, but nothing else.
Just saying.
But if I think, like, personally, like, if it doesn't really affect the gameplay for me, then I'm fine with it most of the time. But I'm just, I mean,
I played Zelda as well.
I played Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. If that shows you how much I care about performance, there we go. I really don't.
Hold up, I care about. I mean,
I wish it was better. Truly, I don't think it was good. But I'm just saying, like, I still beat the entire game and played it.
Oh yeah, me too. But it's just
I'm sorry.
It was. I like fell through the thing so many times.
That happened to me like twice, where I fell through like the stage.
Yeah, and then it would just crash. Like, it crashed all the time.
Yeah, I didn't crash. I didn't have crashes.
Oh, really? That's good.
No, I didn't have.
I was playing on the first Switch though, which I think could have.
Like the first
day one Switch.
Oh, like the day one. Oh, okay. Yeah, I was playing on OLED. So.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. It's coming out May 21st, so we're 6 weeks away from it. We'll see when it comes out. I will be playing it day one, and then probably finishing it apparently by day 2. So there you go.
I'm gonna also play it day 1. I'm gonna commit to that. I think I want to see it. Series
S?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I'll be curious
what the cinematic experience is as a film major. I'm gonna judge it.
Wait.
Okay.
Did you play the first game?
Nope.
Oh, play the first game.
Oh, interesting.
First game's on the Switch. It's a really good port too. Okay. Yeah. Check it out.
I would get you want headphones for it, Josie.
Okay.
Yeah, that's when I decided I'm done with Hellblade. As soon as I put in those headphones, I don't like all that whispering shit in my ear. But
yeah. Do you know about that, Josie? The audio stuff. You know the audio stuff they do in the game? Really? Oh, I don't even want to tell you. You just need to play it. And that's in Game Pass.
I already can tell that Josie's not going to like Hellblade.
Why?
I don't know. Like, I think I know Josie's kind of style enough with games, what she likes, what she doesn't. I feel like Hellblade's going to be lost on her.
Well, but get ready for the next Spawncast where they get lit up by the comments.
It's I feel like it's in. Someone in the chat can double check. I feel like that's in Game Pass.
I'll totally play it if it's
Hellblade, the first one. And it's not it's not a long game at all, but it is a very interesting experience. If you've never played it with like the audio and stuff they do, you want headphones of some kind when you play it. Plug it into your controller, plug it into your Switch, wherever you're playing it, and go from there, because they do a lot of audio stuff in terms of like people being behind you, and it's very interesting.
God. Okay.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So it is on Game Pass. Okay, cool. Thank you, Fairbanks. It is on there, so you can download it, play it on the Series S. See what you think.
I'll give you my thoughts next week then.
Good. Like I said, it's not a long game, so
Okay.
you play it an hour here or there. You'll probably be done this week pretty quick.
Okay, we'll do then.
Let's talk about we'll talk about the Nintendo 3DS Wii U stuff real quick, and then I'll go to the super chats. I saw some people asking when I get to those. We'll get to them probably the next 15 or so minutes. All right, so this week Nintendo is shutting down the Wii U and 3DS online. They've already shut down the stores. I believe that is April 8th. They're shutting
Monday.
Yep, April 8th, Monday. Okay, cool. Monday.
4 p.m.
So
PDT.
Got it. So they are shutting everything down for the Wii U, 3DS in terms of online play. The big ones people were playing, probably Mario Kart, Splatoon, and Mario Maker. I'm missing one other one. I know those are like the big ones that people are still playing. They did clear, by the way, the community did clear all Mario Maker levels. They were having a hard time with one of them. It was into the herbs or something, but it was a tool-assisted run. Someone still managed to beat it. Didn't matter. They still beat it. So that's all done. But what's interesting to me about this is this felt heavy nostalgia driven. There's a lot of discussion around the Wii U, like in the last 2 days, I think. And I don't think I remember the Wii U the same a lot of people do. I think there are a lot of people who are more comfortable now really discussing how the Wii U was because the Switch is a far and away success for Nintendo. That was not a great time for Nintendo in terms of home consoles with the Wii U.
Listen,
people are kind of remembering, I think, a bit differently.
You're allowed to like it. So people are saying, oh, well, you can't tell me I didn't like it because I even liked it back then. And that's fine. Nobody's saying that anybody can't like it. But I'm hearing, like I said, the cap. It's the golden era. Like stuff like that for fans, not just for yourself, but for fans. And I'm thinking, what fans? We're talking like it was missing like tons. It's missing new Metroid game, missing new Animal Crossing, missing Fire Emblem. It's like missing like a ton of franchises that all went to the 3DS. So how can the system be the golden era when it's all of the cool games? A lot of the cool games are on 3DS. Also, like no RPGs, barely any third-party support after like the launch or so, right? So it's like, what golden era are we talking about here? Are there good games? Sure, because a lot of those games are on the Switch, but there was no golden era.
I can back up the 3DS apps. The 3DS is a phenomenal system. It is a great one to own now. 3DS games, awesome. But the Wii U, I don't know. I'm looking back on it. I'm trying to figure it out. The only thing I can think of is the Wii U I would say it has more personality than the Switch in terms of, like people point out the menu system, the eShop music.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's also slow as hell though.
I'm not gonna say it's not slow. It is.
Yeah, it's also slow.
A lot of systems at that time though were slow. I was using like even the PS3 recently. Cross media bar is
kind of laggy. Yeah,
that's kind of laggy. The 360, the blade system I think was faster, but when they got later on, it became kind of slower.
Yeah.
But Evgie, you've actually used the Wii U somewhat recently because you've soft modded it, which to be fair does make the system pretty awesome. I will say that. But do you remember the Wii U like that? Are you thinking differently? Like the Wii U was, someone said golden era for Nintendo?
No. In fact, I'm actually making a video for Monday because I'm looking at the Pretendo network, the replacement, because that's kind of the community-driven replacement for Nintendo network. So I've been actually I set that up on my Wii U and my 3DS. I have a video out on Monday, so I won't talk about it in too much detail. But I did fire up the Wii U again, John, even with the aroma hacks and all that stuff to speed up the loading and everything. The UI is so slow and clunky, man. Like there's just no way around it. Like it takes forever to do anything in that user interface. It really is quite painful. But yeah, I mean, the Wii U was a good system. I like the Wii U. But I mean, golden era and all this other nonsense that's going around. No, come on. I mean, OJ is absolutely right. It was a system that I felt like, did bring some innovation to the table, and obviously a lot of those concepts were brought forward to the Switch. But at the end of the day, it's a system that just, it's not good. It's not good.
I kind of agree with everyone, but I grew up with this thing. Like this was like my actual system that sort of got me into like games, I guess more so. Like this was the first system that was mine. So I really love my Wii U and I have a lot of nostalgia for it. And I think the reason people are saying it's like the golden era is like, I think a lot of people around my age, a lot of the good like there is really good games on the Wii U, right? So if you like look at those games that are there and not the ones that aren't, it is really solid. But you're also missing the months and months of there being nothing, which to be fair, I did because I got mine in like 2014 when half of the stuff was out already. So it was kind of nice.
I think
it just depends on like where people jump into it, you know?
That's a really good point, because I remember waiting months for something to come out. You know, like it was like, when's the next thing, and when's the next first party game? And we were waiting and waiting and waiting. Like there was just nothing coming out. And then obviously the third party stuff was very much non-existent for the most part. So it was frustrating, but I can definitely see coming into it later on when there is a little bit of a software base that's been established and some good first party experiences already available. I can definitely see how you would basically jump on board and be like, yeah, this is a pretty decent system. I like this, you know?
Yeah, especially if you're more casual. Like imagine these are the people who maybe had like a Wii, right? And they don't necessarily like want all these super hardcore experiences. Some of them, not all of them. You know, it'd be nice, obviously, to have all that stuff, but I kind of understand the sentiment. I don't agree with it because I personally like the Switch a lot more, but I just think that the Wii U at the time, I really liked it. I think it's a good system, but yeah, definitely not amazing.
I put a lot of time into my Wii U as well. It's not like I like. Well, there's some things
OJ hates the Wii U. I cannot believe him.
But no,
roast him, chat. Freaking come at this guy right now.
I really hate some things, like the lack of RPGs really pissed me off. But I do like Xeno X, and I do like you know, there's like Tokyo Mirage Sessions, and there's things that I really like about it. But just like the droughts. Like I covered the system from start to finish. From the launch, I was there. I was covering it from the beginning, and this was the sentiment among fans everywhere at the time. You know, we were waiting and waiting and waiting for things to happen, you know, like just waiting for things to happen over and over. And like, yeah, there's good games. Like I think 2014 was probably the most exciting year, right? Because that was Bayonetta, that was DKC, that was Super Smash Brothers. There was a lot of there was a lot of cool games, you know, and that was great. And then they had that great Nintendo presentation. They showed off Zelda, Breath of the Wild was there. So I mean, that was cool, but like that was like the only year that I can sit there and say, oh my God, that was a great year. 2015, they had already almost like pretty much tipped their hand and said, we're moving on. By 2015, they announced the NX at the beginning of 2015, and the E3 that year was not great. You know, I mean, there was some cool games. We had Splatoon and stuff, and there was, you know, but that was pretty much done. And then by 2016, they announced, they fully showed off the Switch. So it was like started and stopped, and it was like done. And I don't know, there just wasn't enough from, you know, like on the Switch, like you can play like Persona and all that. Like you can't get those experiences on the Wii U, and people were wanting them. Like I specifically remember people saying, we need more of this, we need more of this, we need more of this, and we didn't get a lot of it, you know? So, I mean, yeah, looking back, but you also got to look at what happened during the time, you know? Like, and there's a lot missing. There's a lot missing, like way too much missing.
That's what I'm saying. I think there's that disconnect between like that time and now looking back on it, because you look back on it and it's like, oh wow, that gave us Splatoon, which is like a really big franchise for Nintendo now. You know, that gave us Mario Maker, which is like such a cool new thing for Mario. And like you look at it, and Pikmin 3, like a lot of people really like it. Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, like one of the best platformers. So I just think it's like revisionist history where you look at these cherry-picked games that were really amazing and you're like, oh, this system was a lot better than I thought. But if you don't, and that's entirely if you don't take into the account of like how long you were waiting and all the droughts and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That said, if you can get one now,
it's
a pretty sweet system to
snag
mod.
it.
One right here.
Yeah, MG has a whole video. There it is. MG has a whole video showcasing his modded Wii U, and it is pretty sick.
So the great thing about a modded Wii U is it can play Wii games, GameCube, DS, GBA, Super NES, NES, Game Boy. I mean, thing's a beast when it comes to back compat.
You have convinced me about that, and the PS3. I've set out to build the ultimate PS3 now in VG. So you've convinced me of all of that.
There's 360, I already did it.
Wii U and the PS3. So I'm doing with the Slim.
That's not PS3. Ultimate.
We're gonna have PS2 games running on that thing. It's gonna be sweet.
You can't crown a PS3 Ultimate if it's not a backwards compatible CEC HA01. I'm sorry.
I can do it.
And you definitely can't do it if it's not a test unit that can play region-free PS1, PS2 back-compat.
Well, I can't do that.
And Gears of War.
And Gears of War.
A tool model.
But wait a minute. Can it play Ridge Racer? Can it play Ridge Racer?
They can all play Ridge Racer.
Okay. Well, then that's the most ultimate one then, right? You win.
So here's a background for me. A perspective where I never got a Wii U. Mm-hmm. And I love Nintendo. And I never felt compelled to get a Wii U. And by the time Switch dropped and one port came, another port came, another port came. So
that was it. You were a DS guy. You were a 3DS guy.
I mean, I would home console versus handheld. I love Nintendo handhelds. So, in a weird way, I guess it's also a bit bizarre that I didn't feel compelled to get a Wii U, with the whole gamepad support. But at the time, nothing compelled me to get one immediately. And as time pressed forward, I think the only thing that I was really missing, or that I thought was really cool, was just the sort of novelty of virtual console having handheld games, which I thought was really cool and dope. So it kind of sucked that that kind of initiative from Nintendo never came over the Switch. At least a la carte buying and owning them, or grandfathering those previous that would have been great, but now that's all paywalled behind a subscription service, which is a pain. But now there's only a handful of games that are stuck on Wii U. The only reason why I think I would ever want a Wii U is to play the Kirby, what is it, Rainbow
Kirby.
Rainbow. Yeah, I know you're talking about. Yeah, and then
there's
Xenoblade
one. Yeah, that too. So I still kind of feel bad that I never got one, because I'm I love Nintendo hardware, but that's how poorly I think they did. Is that even I was not willing to go get one.
There's a lot of people who weren't, unfortunately, for that. So, although the games are already becoming rare, they're gonna be very rare in 10 years. So there's that at least. But yeah, I don't know. The Wii U talk, I think there was a lot of nostalgia talking the past couple of days, and it's not even correct nostalgia really, but it's all getting shut down this week. MVG is going to apparently show you everyone an alternative on Monday.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's not perfect. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done, but it works.
Okay, well, everyone's going to want to tune in to MVG's video on Monday to see what happens after, what you can do to, I guess, play some of your games online. Let me go to some of the super chats here as we go through. This is from Sony is Best saying, MVG, admit you're working on Parasite Eve. Square gave you the source code like Gex. We all know it. And then skip the Xbox, please.
I heard that the source code for Parasite Eve was lost.
Oh, man.
So that should answer your question there. Sony is Best.
That's a shame. Scar says, just dropping in to say good day. This is from Michael. It says, did you guys see the Dino Crisis remake leak?
No.
I did not. Interesting.
That means it's not real.
Is it on one of those pieces of paper that has Sony Showcase at the top, and then there's many things just to blow at bullet points? I'll take a look, Michael.
There was a leak of the actual PS1 game coming to PlayStation Plus Premium, and then it never showed up.
Oh, that's right. It was there was an advertised thing on PlayStation Plus on one of the pages.
Yeah, it never showed up.
Huh.
You just got to assume it's still coming.
This is from Breaks, who says, I'm thinking that the rumored Nintendo Direct for April is just them showing off the Donkey Kong expansion for Universal in Japan. It opens this spring. That'd be one of the best swerves.
Oh my God.
That would hurt some people. I feel like that would crush some dreams, man.
I would be crushed. My dreams would be crushed.
I hope they do it now.
Wow. Hurtful. Because I'm a girl.
Sure.
Hey. Whoa. I'm gonna clip that and put it on Twitter.
All right, go ahead. I've already been canceled multiple times.
Well, you're an RDT.
Cody says, MVG, have you ever felt imposter syndrome as a dev in your career? I'm a web dev, and it moves so fast with so many frameworks, feels hard to keep up.
First of all, your avatar looks like Nate the Hate over there, Cody. Just wanted to point that out. Imposter syndrome all the time, man. Sometimes I wake up in the morning and think, what am I doing here? Yeah, it's a real thing. You know, like I'm usually someone that just gets things done, and I don't really, spend too much time dwelling on stuff like that. But there are definitely days where I do have, thoughts of like, am I even the right person in this role? Is there someone else that should have been in this spot other than myself? But yeah, I definitely feel it sometimes. So I think, if you do get imposter syndrome, just fight through it, man. Just, take a break, take a walk, unplug for a little bit, and just clear your head and get back into it. Because the reason why you were hired as a web dev is because you're obviously experienced and you're good, right? They didn't hire you, by accident. So you always remember those things when you kind of feel down.
It's from Metro, says, will ROG Ally 2/revision release this year or 2025? That is a very good question. I feel like it's coming this year. That'd be my assumption, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. This is from Silver Strike, who says, is anyone on this podcast a real Silent Hill fan?
Yes, I am. I love Silent Hill 2.
And would you like Silent Hill 2?
I like Silent Hill 3. I like The Room. I'm actually very low-key hyped about the remake. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And I am a big fan of that series.
I like Silent Hill. I'm not super invested in the franchise, but I like Silent Hill. I do.
Yeah, I don't like Silent Hill, and
there you go.
I don't care about the franchise, and I never claimed to. I don't think I've even made a video on it or anything. It's about Silent Hill.
Why devs or Unreal Engine can't run 60 FPS on consoles? That's from Perfect Image.
Again, I mean, we can't look at Hellblade as the example here, and anything that's UE5 prior to that. I think it's really just the engine itself. The iteration of Unreal Engine 5 is still very much in its infancy. So give developers more time to get their head around it. I think, next couple of years we'll start to see Unreal Engine really kind of start to shine and offer some really good experiences. But right now it's, you can't really compare things.
This is from Bill Gates, no pressure. It says, hey, do you guys play with controller or mouse and keyboard on PC? I play with both. So mouse and keyboard, I'll put, like we did South Park, I played mouse keyboard and that. If it's like a platformer or something, I'll just use a controller.
Depends on the game. If we're playing Halo, I'm obviously on mouse and keyboard. But like you said, if it's a platformer, I'm just plugging a controller in.
We had like Avatar that came out, and I played that on PC with a controller actually, because there was platforming in that, and it felt kind of. I mean, you can still do it with mouse keyboard, but I did use a DualSense controller for that one. And some of these games that are coming out do have DualSense features on Steam, so it will communicate with the DualSense and do the advanced haptic feedback, the triggers now, that sort of thing. So I'm getting more and more used to using either an Xbox controller or a DualSense controller if it's a Sony game now.
Even Baldur's Gate 3 has really good controller support on PC, and I kind of found myself going back and forth between mouse and keyboard and then controller, because controller is really good on BG3. So yeah, I mean, again, just depends on the experience or on the game that's being played.
This is from Dave, who says, Rebirth has great gameplay, but the main story has so much padding and filler. Splitting it into 3 games for a cash grab was a big mistake. Well,
Dave, you should sign up to the Spawncast network, because John and I did 2 deep dive explorations on Rebirth.
Yeah, it was like an hour recording. We have like 2 30-minute videos of it. One like light general spoilers, if any, and the other one's just all spoilers everything. But Dave, I think you have a point here, but you're going to want to see the video.
Speaking of Spawncast network, Game & Talk's going to go weekly if we guys get to 500 people, just so you know.
Oh, really?
So everybody knows. Yeah, we're going to go weekly. So
Okay,
just like a cool, if you haven't yet and you've been thinking about it, like, come on.
Why is Nintendo Direct happening soon? I know Nate's over there.
No, we're just going to have even less to talk about, but, I'm just thinking, like,
Switch
more
2's
vibes,
getting revealed.
Yeah, Nate likes to leak stuff, So I'm just saying, it's a cool one.
This is from Broccoli, who says, Hellblade 2, a movie with game elements, modern gaming. DVD Knight says, always great conversations. Appreciate you guys. Thank you, DVD Knight. Andy Taylor says, a modern console is a low-end PC with a custom OS.
It's not entirely true, Andy, but I get what you're saying. I understand what you're saying, but it's not entirely true. But I respect the opinion.
Minato Mario became a member again, said, whether a game should be 60 or 30 FPS, I say it's definitely case-by-case basis, but I dislike the saying any game that runs 30 FPS is unplayable. Yeah, I wouldn't agree with that. Agree. It's not unplayable.
Yeah, I agree.
Nicholas says, is there no physical release for Hellblade 2? There is not at this time. It's going to be digital. Or just on Game Pass. Xenoblade Chronicles X is the only reason to own a Wii U these days, from Scar. Yeah, still, that's one I would have liked to have seen on the Switch, but we're kind of running out of time. So
I don't know, man. Like, I really enjoyed Deus Ex Human Revolution on the Wii U. Took advantage of the gamepad in really good ways. I like Tekken Tag Tournament 2 on the Wii U. Some pretty good games on the Wii U. Not
Woolly
just
World.
Xenoblade Chronicles. Yeah, Woolly World's good. That's not on the Switch, right?
No, we got Crafted World, the worst one.
Yep.
This is from Acebreaker. Says Wii U revisionist history is pure copium. Thanks, Acebreaker. This is from Sicilian Gamer. Says Spawncast Golden Era is when RGC85 is not on. This is from Wormsworth. Says, just want to thank you all for the show. Each of your individual takes, opinions, and knowledge of gaming is very much appreciated. I guess that's all. Thank you, Worms. Andy Taylor says Wii U was the original Switch with bad marketing.
Damn, Andy. He's just cooking tonight.
Why is Hellblade 2 only digital? Ninja Theory is doing the same boneheaded decision like Remedy did with Alan Wake 2. BG3 and Bomber Cyberpunk released digitally or physically by the smaller studios like Larian Studios and Reptile Team. Well, who is doing the physical releases for some of the recent Xbox ones? Was that Limited Run or was that someone else? Did someone come in and do that?
Limited Run.
Oh, there you go. Maybe Limited Run will come in and do Hellblade 2 later. I don't know. Claw says, I'm a little surprised how good the CMU emulator is. Seems like despite the issues, there was somewhat decent demand for the Wii U later in its life. This is from Carpet Fresh, who says, Josie, how old were you when the Switch was revealed?
I was in 8th grade.
There you go.
Something. I think I was 14. 14. Yeah, that makes sense. That's actually perfect math. It would be 14.
See, Josie gives us a very different perspective from all of us old people.
Yeah, 14-year-old with I was really excited for that. That's when I got into YouTube too. Right after I watched that Switch reveal, I was like, I got to see what everybody's saying.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, it'll probably be reenacted again here soonish, I think, with the Switch.
Hopefully,
too.
RGT keeps talking about those easy views. I've been killing myself for these views, so I'm down.
You'll be on YouTube to do it. That'll be good. Dark Dream says, hearing the Saber CEO saying the KOTOR remake is obviously being worked on. Well, yeah, the conflicting news was due to Grub mostly, and if SBI stays away, good. No current day BS. I think Saber is going to go big with Knights of the Old Republic. I think that's also going to be multi-platform now. I think they're just Xbox, PlayStation, PC. I think they're just going for it. Saber they're a pretty big studio, so they can most likely get it done at multi-platform. And I feel like that's a project that if they do it right, could lead to quite a nice partnership with Disney, actually. So Jason says, Sean avoiding the show after John outing him as Sir Nintendo. He should now and forever be introduced as Sir Nintendo, the non-Nintendo YouTuber. Yeah, so in our South Park video, I found out a whole backstory of Sean that he hadn't really talked about because his username was on Steam was Sir Nintendo, and he never plays on Steam, so he had to set that up with his email address. And he had an entire rap career that spanned about 4 months where he was Sir Nintendo, and he hit the mean street with bootleg discs and burned CDs. It sold them out, and I didn't sell them out of the car, but he tried to pass them off. It was a whole thing. It was pretty funny. 5 minutes or so back and forth where I realized this, and I kept bringing it up.
Sir Nintendo.
Nintendo.
That's so good.
This from Enigmatic Dream says, if Parasite source code is lost, is an HD port impossible?
No. I mean, you can reverse engineer the game. It just takes a lot longer if you don't have the original source code.
Didn't they do that with FF8? I'm pretty sure they did something like that.
They did. And one studio that I know that reverse engineered the game was Turok 3 Night Dive. They didn't have the original source, so they just reverse engineered the entire game. Took them a couple of years, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely possible. It just takes a lot longer if you don't have the code.
Andy Taylor again says original Silent Hill had an incredible theme music. Quetzal Gaming Network is Fat John exclusive to Patreon. No, he's exclusive to 2018 and before.
Or if you remember on Game and Talk, you get a Fat John emote.
Is there?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I like that. We should do more.
Your emote in the chat. It's really good.
I'll take it. Mike Wells says Duck Hunt was on Wii U, but not on Switch to this day.
Not wrong.
See, the Wii U was better, man. Let's go over to something that had me going back to composite. This is a weird one.
Oh, the TV thing?
Roku put out a patent that was made public over on, it's actually on Google Patents now, but it's a pretty straightforward read where Roku, which did anyone know that they made TVs?
Yeah.
My sister has a Roku.
Really? I know Roku, they have like the OS and stuff that they have set up right on TCL and that sort of thing. Like you turn your TV on and it's there. It's Roku stuff. I was unaware that they started making, apparently it was like last year they started really pushing out TVs. And I guess they're just in Best Buy, Walmart, Target and stuff. But Roku has filed a patent where the TV would be able to detect what's happening through your HDMI port. It could be your Xbox, your PlayStation, Switch, you're watching a movie through a Blu-ray player, and it can detect when something is paused, and it can then drop an ad in there through your HDMI port and the TV. So it doesn't matter what's plugged in. It would overlay it, I assume. They didn't go into too much detail as to how they would do it, just that it's something that they would like to be able to do. And they made that patent. And that got people big concerned because I feel like if Roku came up with this, I have to imagine these other big companies like a Samsung and LG, whoever, they've probably also thought of this as well. So I'm more thinking, okay, how exactly is it going to know if you're paused or if maybe, great example, when we're playing WWE 2K24 and there's lag and everything on the screen freezes. I'm imagining right there. It's like, we got him. Let's drop the Doritos Cool Ranch ad in here.
Every smart TV has a frame buffer, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's an internal frame buffer on the TV. So I haven't read the patent, so maybe I'm oversimplifying things, but the way that I would see it working is if basically the image is still after a certain amount of time. I don't mean like, a couple of seconds. I mean, maybe after like a couple of minutes or something like that. It's implied that maybe you have paused your TV or you've stepped away. So maybe that's the opportunity to run some ads on it. I think it's fucking horrible that this patent is even being considered. And it's just one of those things where we're going to live in a society where literally they're going to start running ads no matter where you are. Like I got shit on my phone about Skype the other day. Like Skype is now giving me breaking news stories and stuff like that.
I thought it was me. I
dude,
see it all the time.
What the fuck?
Dude, I think this is the way things are going to go. Like they're going to start trying to push ads in every little crevice there is available to us in technology, whether that is via TVs, whether that is on our phones, whether that is if you pause a video game and you've left it pause for more than a couple of 30 seconds or a minute. I think it's coming, and I think it's going to be terrible.
It's so intrusive too. It's just like not like that's not okay. I don't know. And I feel like they're gonna make us pay to not have them in a TV.
Probably.
No, you're gonna still pay, and then they're still gonna do them like Netflix.
Yeah, there's gonna be like
the
cheaper
you pay
option.
for it, and there's still ads even when you
less
pay for
ads
it.
Though. Yeah.
I think it'd be something where if this actually happened, they would because they try and spin this positively. So you'd be in Best Buy and there'd be ad-supported TV that starts at 200, and then the no ad TV is 400. But you'd have families that would be like, we're gonna get the cheapest TV possible, and that's how they're offsetting it and trying to make it, like a.
The problem is you can't trust these companies to not change that later on with a firmware update in the future. Anyway, I mean, isn't Discord doing ads now, like limited ads or something?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't they just roll them, dude? Ads are going to take over our lives. I mean, they already are, but things are going to get so much worse, I feel, with all this bullshit that's going on right now.
I remember how there's in our brain, then they just give us the immediately.
So many examples of we've seen like over like a 15-20 year period, like some publishers were looking into this.
Yeah.
Either pause menus or like there's that recent thing where what was it? Was it a Ubisoft game where like an ad just like came up during I forget what game it was.
I think it was Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, Assassin's Creed, right?
Yeah. It just came up like the ad just appeared. Like someone was playing.
There's been patents for it, and there's been like real examples where like it's I guess more like it was like an ad tie-in with the game right off the very onset. Like you'd be driving and burn out, and a billboard's like a real thing, like a real advertisement or something. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I'm seeing a lot of companies that did not have advertising as part of their business model, and now it is. So MVG is not far off at all. It sucks.
I think it'll work its way into our games in the next like generation. Like as soon as we start getting that cloud integration, I feel like that's their green light to just go for it in open world games. And they're ads that you won't be necessarily intrusive, but like you said, you'll look up in an open world and there'll be a billboard and it's like, okay, Michelin tires or something. So
yeah, that's like a blimp. That's already kind of like a thing, though. I remember doing that. Like, what was it? Like Madden? Madden had like Snickers and all sorts of stuff in like
that's what I mean. Like
shows. Yeah,
some games do have like real ads, where it makes sense. Like that is like I guess the least intrusive way you could possibly do it. But even then, it's just you give a big company like an inch, they're going to take a mile.
Oh yeah. The thing though with Roku is if I'm Roku right now, it feels like they're trying to like break into the industry or the market in terms of their own hardware, their own TVs. Obviously, Samsung and LG and Sony are like the ones that have like a stranglehold on the industry for TVs. I feel like this is something I would not do right now and put out there because then like my immediate thought now is, well, I guess I'm not going to buy a Roku TV at all.
Remember in the days where they would like make video games around products like the Burger King sneaking game and the Doritos game? Yeah. Like just make those again. Like if you want us to buy your product, just make a game around the product. Don't throw ads in any pause or delay or anything like that. I think, man, I hope we don't get to that point where they just start riddling video games with ads because that would really, really annoy me a lot.
I think right now Microsoft with the mobile game, like the whole mobile game industry is horrendous because of that, and then they like spam you with ads so bad that it's like forces you, if you actually like the game, to buy the whole thing. And then on top of it, there's microtransactions, and then most of the time it's just less ads, and you still get ads for their other games, but you're not getting ads for other games that aren't theirs.
That's a great point. Some mobile games will do it where they'll have like an option, say, watch this ad, willingly watch this ad, and then
you get another life.
In-game, something for the in-game economy. That's mobile's like an excellent point. It's horrendous there.
Hopefully that's not where home is. Like if that's where gaming is headed, like that's really bad. Because
apparently Microsoft is looking into that for their Game Pass stuff where they can offer either very cheap or even free and just ads will be part of it if you want to sign up for that tier.
Yeah, of course. I mean, Xbox Live Gold back in the day, John, they used to run like World of Warcraft commercials. This is way before ABK. This is like 2009, time frame. And even that annoyed me. It's like, I'm paying for Xbox Live Gold here. I'm paying $120 a year. Why the fuck am I getting ads on my on my dashboard? So it doesn't surprise me that they would do that.
I'll throw in the correction because otherwise there's gonna be a comment with like 50 things under it. It was $60 a year then.
Was it?
For Xbox Live Gold, yeah. You're right. Now, technically, with Game Pass, it's even more than that, right? But back then, it was like the 60. But you're right. There were definitely ads with Xbox Live Gold. You're right about that.
Yeah.
I completely forgot about that whole thing. I feel like that would have been crazy online if we had social media and stuff really kicking at that time. We didn't have it like Twitter or something.
120 like Australian. See, I was in Australia back in the day, so I'm sticking to the 120.
Okay. I understand that. But yeah, ads are going to be it's become more and more part of the industry. Probably just our lives in general. Everything become digitized and electronic. Let's talk about Apple. This is more Ryan's territory, but it's interesting because MVG, you said, well, like a podcast or two ago, that you don't really do any Apple stuff like that.
What do you mean? I got an iPhone right here.
Your iPhone. You don't have, but like PC wise, like computer wise, like MacBook Pros.
No,
Apple TV.
I have an iPhone. I don't have any other Apple devices. I'm actually more of a Google person, other than the iPhone.
Well, we have some news that emulators are being greenlit or approved by Apple at this time, and this just happened like 2 days ago, to where they put out a developer guidelines update, and they seem to be fine now with game emulators and apps that may offer certain software that's not embedded in the binary, specifically HTML5, mini apps, mini games, streaming games, chatbots, plugins. Additionally, retro game console emulator apps can offer to download games. That sounds kind of crazy, but the idea here is, could we start having Dolphin just show up in the App Store now? Can we have any of the popular Game Boy Advanced ones? Can we have anything for PS2, PS1? Because that's something that I feel like people have been unsure of. So a lot of it's been like side loading. You would jailbreak something to then run all these emulators on. But if you could just have them directly on their App Store, and Apple seems fine with it in this case, as they're directly pointed out here. And I'm confused about how that would even work, MVG. The idea that the emulator could offer to download games in the app?
Tell me, John, how is this different from emulators on the Android store right now, on the Google Play Store? Isn't it the same thing? Are we talking about the same thing here? Because you can download Yuzu, and you can download DuckStation, you can download all those kind of Android ports of popular emulators. Yep. So I don't really see this being any different on the on iOS than it would be for Android. I think they're just opening it up because obviously historically they've always been against emulation. They've never really allowed them on their store. So they're just kind of opening that up. So I don't really feel like it's going to be any different than what you get on the Android store.
So I want to point something out, MVG, okay? Because I've been telling you should try this for a while, okay? I've said, hey, you should buy one of these, see what you think. This will allow them, any of these people who are working on these emulators, more reason to create for the Apple Silicon at this point. Because the App Store is incredibly popular for applications. I mean, so many downloads, so much exposure comes from these stores. And if now they realize that a lot of people are going to start downloading for iPads, iPhones, iMacs, MacBook Pros just on the store, and they have a reason to then develop for the M1, the M2, I would be very curious to see what those chips can do, because they are very, very impressive in any application that's developed natively for it, even in games. So that's kind of something I was thinking. I'm like, could we actually see some of these emulators get more of a focus on an M1 chip and a MacBook Air that doesn't even have a fan? It just runs completely passive, and it's fairly, for Apple, it's fairly affordable, is what I'll say. These things are like $700 to $800, which actually I guess now technically with where we are with inflation and stuff, that's not terrible for a decent laptop. But that was kind of my thought in that case, MVG, is we would see some interesting development potentially if these things catch on being greenlit. My thing is, though, if you start having games downloaded through the app, doesn't that just open you up to like piracy issues? I'm confused about that one.
That's piracy. I mean, And I don't think that's what Apple is saying necessarily. I think they're basically saying, anything that would be considered, freeware or homebrew type stuff, or, community built stuff, that would be acceptable. But yeah, I mean, you're not going to be downloading, GameCube and Wii ROMs for the Dolphin emulator, because obviously that's something that, number one, they would get in a lot of trouble over, and Nintendo would be on their ass, within 24 hours of the emulator going out there. So I think all they're basically saying is, yeah, you do have the ability to download ROMs, as long as those ROMs are legal, if they're not pirated ROMs, of course. But yeah, I mean, I think all they're really saying here is they're opening up, their store to emulation and having the ability to run emulators and ROMs on iOS, which is a good thing, because I mean, this year, obviously, so far, emulators or emulation has been beaten up pretty good. Nintendo's obviously come in and struck down Yuzu, and there's a lot of emotion around emulation right now about what Nintendo's been doing. So this is actually a welcome change. Seeing this, it's a W for emulation, to be honest with you. The Apple is kind of on board with it now. So look forward to seeing how well it works, and if there are limitations. I have heard there are some limitations about what you can do on iOS, as far as I don't want to get too technical, but there's things like just-in-time compilation and things like that won't be available, but we'll see. I think this is going to be one of those things where it'll be an iterative process. Obviously, Android is much further ahead as far as emulators on their store, because they've been around pretty much since day one. But I'm excited. Am I personally going to run Dolphin on my iPhone? No, because playing games on my phone I never do anyway. But I'm very glad that it's available to people that do like mobile devices and mobile emulation.
Okay.
I think it's pretty good, because sorry if I missed part of the conversation, but there has been so many people trying to jailbreak their phones and stuff, and like actually screwing up their iPhones in order to sort of run these emulators. And I think that could hopefully fix that issue a lot. And then like on top of which, every iOS, if somebody hypothetically gets one of these emulators running, every single time iOS updates, it changes. So you cannot do it. So I just think it's going to make things a lot easier and hopefully better for that side of the community on iOS. And even like Mac and stuff, there's so many hoops you have to jump through every single time you want to install something. So I think hopefully that'll help things make it a bit smoother.
People are also pointing out that this seems to be in response to the lawsuit that was brought up against them by Department of Justice. So it might even see other changes technically with Apple becoming apparently more open. So this is an interesting change, one that I think surprised a lot of people. So we'll see if other things happen. That means
that when you send pictures from an iPhone to an Android, they're not like 4 pixels?
I think that's something that was specifically pointed out in the lawsuit.
Like really? That's good. It's horrendous.
Yep.
Drives
that was
crazy.
Something that was specifically pointed out, as well as peer pressure in school. If you are the
Android kid. Yeah, the green bubble kid. We hate those kids.
Green bubble. Okay, you do.
Green bubble. No, I can't stand them. You add them to the group chat, they screw everything up.
Going on. We thought there was
I'm the
bullying
bully.
going on.
I bullied.
Okay.
I was like, wow. Well, because you can't add new people or take people out. So every single time you just have to make a new group chat. And it was the one guy. And you're like, why are you even here? At a certain point.
Wow. So. It's real. Jeez.
Yeah, I mean, that wasn't that intense. I was playing it up quite a bit. But yeah.
Wow. Interesting. So, okay, they were on something.
I'll say this, John. Apple tends to be maliciously compliant more often than not. So this is good news, but to me it reads as we'll open it up, but to suggest that we're going to get, well, I mean, like MV just said, you're not going to see Dolphin or anything, allowed on this thing. It's like they're doing the sort of bare minimum here. It's kind of like there's so many examples of where Apple does this stuff. Like when they headlines started coming out of how they're finally going to start supporting right to repair, but their self-repair program was just screen, very simple tools, rental tools, and like batteries. And you couldn't get like genuine OEM parts that would make more complicated repairs for iPhone. Like It's a win, but it's a very small step in the right direction. Apple typically will try and be very restrictive, and even though they're allowing emulators, I would assume that on the back end for App Store policies, things are still going to get rejected. Things are still not going to be, allowed on the store, and I just assume you're not going to see a whole lot come out of this, at least initially.
Okay. Well, it's a good step in the right direction, at least. So we'll see what happens when people start just trying to put anything and everything on there, and they let you download all the Pokemon games on the Game Boy Advance emulator. We'll see how long that lasts. Let's talk about that Microsoft again. This time, good news though. Good news. So that we also have rumor that with their Xbox Game Showcase that they've already announced that's happening this summer, and we're looking towards June for that one. Gear 6 would be there. That's a rumor that came out of once again Jeff Grubb on the Xcast. Although I feel like I've heard this multiple times from Nate in the last 4 or 5 months or something, just randomly here and there. So this also was not too surprising to hear that the Coalition is finally going to show up. And I kind of feel like Microsoft's going to have a pretty good showing this summer based on the stuff that's starting to get out there right now. But Gear 6 is one that apparently is going to show what next gen is, even though we're 3.5 years into the generation, which is a funny thing to think of. But the Coalition, very talented. I would expect them to get 60 frames per second out of Unreal Engine 5. So, MVG, you've been around multiple times next to Nate as he said these things. I think he also mentioned on the Reset Era, I think, that this is going to be a big wow moment with the Coalition.
I think so. I mean, Coalition, obviously Gears 5 and the Hive Busters expansion that they did is some of the most incredible tech that I've seen, in the previous generation. So I think that they will show up with something very impressive here. 60 frames. I mean, that's a big deal if that is the actual truth of the matter. Which I think Coalition, they really want to learn that technology, and I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, did they not help with the Matrix demo? I thought their name was involved with that.
Yes, they did a lot of collaboration with Epic. And then they also did that that tech demo where they had the guy holding kind of the crystal.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And that looked incredible.
So, it sounds like they've spent the last few years kind of learning their craft, learning the engine, the intricacies of it, and getting familiar with it. So I think whatever they come up with over the summer is going to be impressive. Looking forward to it. Very excited to hear about the next Gears game, because I really like Gears 5 and I like Hive Busters as well. So I'm ready for a new one.
Yeah, Gear 6 I think is going to be one of those big moments for Microsoft for their next gen experience. Finally, it does feel like this generation's just been sluggish to start. So I'm hoping 2024 all the way around for Sony and Microsoft, they just have those specific games for those systems ready to roll, and they do look impressive. But
when do you think Gears 6 would come out though? I
think it's next year,
late holiday next year type thing. September.
Yeah, I feel like we hear about it a year and a half ahead of time.
Yeah, I think you're
hear about
right.
June, come out maybe next October, maybe October 2025. Although they have to be, maybe Microsoft won't care as much, but I feel like everyone is going to be kind of careful about where GTA 6 is going to land. So I think everyone's going to kind of be like, okay, we don't want to be within a week, maybe even a month proximity to GTA 6, because not only is that game going to sell a ton, which is going to suck up a lot of money from the market, if there's an online to it as well, which we assume will be there at launch, if not, maybe the following, it might be kind of a staggered launch for online. But once that comes out, that's just going to suck up a lot of people's time. So that's the tough thing is, can we get it out a month before GTA 6? That would be the best bet. So maybe September it comes out or something. Cause I think GTA 6 is like an October release for 2025.
But you think Nintendo's probably cooking something for next year as well, right?
Oh yeah.
What if they drop a Mario Kart game in September next year?
Yeah, I mean the thing is, I feel like that audience is still not quite like this. I mean, you're gonna have crossover, but Nintendo just launches their stuff whenever. Like, whatever. Here's Pokemon GTA 6 that can come out the same day. We don't care as much, but still, it's there's going to be some landmark releases around that time that I think Microsoft will pay attention to. Also for themselves, because they're going to make money on GTA 6, so why crowd it up? But that's kind of my anticipation. GTA 6 big showing this summer, release next year, second half. I think that's good. But along with that MVG, and there's a big one, because wait, hold on. I think Nate said something about this before too. Was it early this year? Anyway, Microsoft. They've apparently, this was from Windows Central, as it was also confirmed with Microsoft after somehow they got emails and they went to Microsoft and Microsoft said, yeah, those are our emails, and they confirmed it. So it seems like a weird timeline there of events, but almost like it's purposeful. But they have, this is according to Sarah Bond, again, emails getting out there and them confirming, Microsoft has set up a dedicated team at Xbox to future-proof the digital library and, as they say, build on history of delivering backwards compatibility. So they disbanded the backwards compatibility team like a year and a half, 2 years ago or something.
Yep.
It was like a year after the Series X.
It's actually, it's longer. It's longer than you think. I think it was in 2021, maybe.
Okay.
While you keep talking, I'll find out.
Yeah. Anyway, they disbanded it, and then they brought them. They're bringing them back together now to do more backwards, which once they bought Activision Blizzard, it kind of felt like, hey, you guys might want to go back and do some stuff with that, because there's a lot of legacy titles you could bring up and make backwards compatible. But they kind of took it a step further and mentioned that the digital library in general. So they now have a dedicated team within Xbox just to focus on that.
So they said in 2021 that the program had ended. Now, the thing is, prior to that, with the Xbox One X, they ended it in 2019. So they have this kind of history where they'll spin it up, they'll churn out 70 or so titles, and then they'll wind it down again because they've got to a point where, number one, either the technology is at the point where they can't take it any further, and more importantly, the licensing issues that kind of surround bringing back old games, right? As we know. So to me, this sounds like the next iteration of them spinning up the backward compatibility program for the next generation of Xbox, which I think is cool. And look, to be honest, John, if the next system is an ARM-based system, which is, we've heard rumors that they're going to go to ARM and some type of hybrid cloud thing. I don't know what that entails. Then they've got their work cut out for them, right? Because we're talking about going from x86 to ARM. So there's obviously an emulation layer that needs to be built. And to make it even more complicated, will they continue to support the legacy 360 and OG stuff, right? Well, OG is x86, but 360 power PC. So I think what I'm taking away from this is that they want to basically try to bring everyone's back compat library forward, right? So I think they're putting in the blocks, the pieces now to facilitate that with the next generation of Xbox. So not really a big surprise. As far as Nate and I, we talked about it back in January, and I think we kind of just threw around the question, is it time for them to bring it back? And we both agreed that it probably was. So I'm not really, surprised to hear this, announcement or this internal memo, whatever it was from Sarah Bond. But I think it's a good thing. Xbox is obviously, they've been doing this for a long time. They started back compat in the days of the 360 back in 2006. So they have the technology. They've been working on it for a very, very long time. So I think it's great that they are, if this is to be true, which I think it is, spinning it back up again. So I'm excited. Should be good.
Yeah, I think the idea of preserving the digital library is going to be a focus for them if they are moving to something cloud related, something AI related. I think that's all stuff they want to. They once again seem to double down on the biggest technological leap ever in a generation. So everyone's still trying to put that one together. I don't think it's in terms of graphics, though. I think there's a bit more to it than that. But backwards compatibility, now I'm thinking about games they can bring up Activision Blizzard, of course, showing up here. They have the ability to all of a sudden just start dropping Call of Duties into their Game Pass service left and right, and there's rumors that might be a big focus for them with the showcase this summer, where they would also show off Call of Duty Gulf War, I believe is what it's called, alongside of, hey, here's a bunch of other Call of Duties going into the service. So there's a lot that they can do, but hey, if they're releasing their next gen system 2026. Well, now's probably the time to get the backwards compatible team spun up, as you mentioned, so that they can get that figured out now ahead of time. So that it's interesting. Why do they spin it up and then disband and then come back together? It seems like backwards compatibility would be something they'd consistently work on, but do you think they just run out of stuff to do, MVG, and they're like, all right, go off to other divisions?
I think so. I think ultimately it's licensing that kind of is the roadblock, right? Like they do as much as they can. Because, I've heard, I think it was Jason Ronald back when he was running the backward compatibility team, like years and years ago. He basically said every game that people have asked for, we've already looked at, and we can't do it due to technical reasons or licensing issues. So they've already kind of looked at the entire catalog. So that's kind of what I took away. Now, this was obviously before the Bethesda and the ABK acquisition. So yeah, I mean, will there be Activision Blizzard games that do come up on BC? I think so. I mean, we're kind of half expecting that they may announce something where they bring back some older Activision titles to the back compat program, because they are available now. But yeah, I mean, they just stop because they've kind of run out of things to do at that point. They've kind of hit a roadblock at that point.
Okay. Yeah, I figured that was probably it, but still, it's interesting that they leave and they just come right back after a year or 2 years, and they're like, all right, let's do it again. We got more stuff to put backwards compatible for it. So, but I do like the push. I do. And it does make me more interested in what their next gen stuff is, if they're thinking they got to get that going now for it being maybe, as you said, ARM based, cloud based. I don't know. It's interesting future there. So what about Ryan? What do you think about this? They're getting more backwards compatibility. We're still asking Sony to do PS3 stuff.
When I saw this news for a second, I thought it was in reference to what a few publishers are finally doing now is like having a team dedicated to like what actual preservation would be for studios, which is archiving their games for now so it can be used later, archiving tools and builds and being able to retrieve it later. But hearing that it's about this for them possibly switching architectures, that's not surprising at all to me, given that would be a big problem, as MVG said. So they'd probably have to get a whole new, emulation team together to build a new layer that is going to be carrying over a library that's now, in the thousands. We're talking about most of Xbox One, now Series S and X. But the backwards compatibility program, I mean, I always suspected that there's probably a lot of games that run pretty well from the layer that they built, because they built that thing for years ago on 360, starting from 360, and then initially going into Xbox One. So I presume a lot of games probably work very well, but it's licensing. Licensing is going to stop them before the technical limits, probably what I imagine. That, and because they monetize the program too, so they're not actually letting you insert the disc and you're playing it off disc. That's not what's happening in this case, but. I mean, I'm always for if we can get anything old back, let's do it. So I would hope the acquisition means we're getting more titles. You would conceivably, that means there's a whole new library that's opened up to them now, and that's a big publisher. That's a big back catalog. So I would love to see that stuff. And moreover, I'm very happy to see that there is this team put together for forward compatibility, based on the language. That's the concern with I guess the broader discussion around Microsoft platforms is, if they do the whole multi-platform thing or going completely digital, it's what does that mean for an owner today? But if you're buying primarily digital stuff, then this is great news.
Yeah. I'm really curious about their showcase, because I'm thinking about Call of Duty. Maybe they have some other stuff, and maybe they want to announce a roadmap even for backwards compatibility, different titles they're working on. So that's something to think about with that one. So I'm interested.
I'm not trying to overhype because, but what if they have Gears 6? They show us an update of Fable. They show us an update of Perfect Dark, and they announce some like new Forza Horizon game. That's a pretty good showcase.
Yeah, and they would have the Call of Duty stuff there.
Yep.
Perfect Dark is one that I feel like a lot of people forgot even got announced. That like it's been a while, but
I didn't forget.
See that. No,
I'm very excited for that. I can't wait. I hope it's in good shape. So
me too. That's my worry with that.
I feel a little better about Perfect Dark when they brought on Crystal. When they brought up Crystal Dynamics on, I'm like, okay, I think they can handle this one. But Tomb Raider has to come out first, and you know what? That we might see that in June as well. Now that I'm thinking about it, like that could be at Summer Game Fest or it could be at Xbox's show. So what if Crystal Dynamics had 2 games to show it there? They had Tomb Raider and they also had Perfect Dark.
I could see Crystal at Summer Games Fest. Yeah,
that one wouldn't surprise me because that is Tomb Raider's Amazon published, so they might be looking at Summer Game Fest as that's an easy advertisement opportunity for us. We'll just drop it there because I think they've done some stuff with Jeff and them. I feel like they've done I think New World was there one time. So I feel like Amazon is familiar with Summer Game Fest and Jeff and how that all runs. So I think Crystal will be there one way or the other. But Tomb Raider, that'd be interesting to see that too. So that MVG would be a pretty good showcase.
Yeah. Looking forward to it.
I have a question that is very off topic, but did you guys see the Tomb Raider's like the best franchise or whatever, or the best mascot of all time thing going around Twitter?
That was interesting. Who ran that?
Iconic, and it was up against like Mario and like.
But it was like British, so
there's the British awards. I mean, Tomb Raider is a huge deal in England.
Oh, in Britain.
That makes sense. Okay, I was trying to figure out who it was.
4,000 people, too. So sample size is small.
4,000 Tomb Raider hat.
What was the? Let me see. What was the top? Let me see. Who are the top? Because they did like a top number of characters, right? Let me see. Or did they just do one?
I don't remember.
Let me see. Okay, here we go. I got it.
There was a bunch, but like Agent 47 was like number 3. Mario was number 2. Agent 47 was 3.
I have. Let me see if there's anything else on here. I want to go. Okay, cool. There we go.
That's exactly.
I like it.
Agent 47 is Hitman.
Yeah.
I got some more homework for you, Josie.
No.
I'll line you up with more games. Don't worry.
No, don't waste your time with that franchise.
Actually, I somewhat recently, a few months ago, played Hitman 2 on the GameCube, and that game is still incredibly vague and annoying at times to play. But I think Josie, that's more your generation speaking
Hitman?
there, because Hitman was, I mean, it's gotten back in like the spotlight, but it had this run where it kind of faded for a bit. But like when it first came out, and then the second one especially, it was hot again. So let me see. Okay, so number 1 was Lara Croft. Number 2 was Mario. Number 3 was Agent 47. Number 4 was Sonic the Hedgehog. Number 5 was Sackboy. Number 6 was Pac-Man.
That makes sense.
Number 7 was Link. Number 8 was Master Chief. Number 9 was Kratos. And then number 10 was Shadowheart. Can anyone tell me what franchise Shadowheart is from?
Baldur's Gate 3. I've played the
game. It wasn't for you, MVG. I wanted to see the blank stares for about 10 seconds before I said Baldur's Gate 3. That's funny though, because I saw that. I'm like, they have a Baldur's Gate 3 character in there as an iconic character after the game just came out.
Where's Doom Guy? Where's Gordon Freeman?
Doom Guy.
Whoa. Where's Solid Snake? Was he in there?
Or Steve? Is Minecraft? What are we doing?
Solid Snake is number 14.
That's a good point. That's a real good point.
Huh. There's a lot wrong with this list.
Where do you think Pikachu placed?
20th.
That is disgusting.
No, I'm saying that's where he placed. I don't know that's where it was.
Oh, okay.
25 for the Dex entry.
Pikachu was number 12, and with what Ryan just said, apparently he should be number 1 because he just told us his Pokédex entry off the top of his head.
I said 25. 25 is his national Dex entry.
Oh, sorry.
Let's not get it twisted.
Sorry. Would you say what is Bulbasaur?
1 is Bulbasaur. Like
I think Bulbasaur. 1. Yeah. This list is
together.
Obviously.
This list is I don't know. I guess
It's very British
it's
of them.
chaotic.
It's very British.
Yeah. We'll go with that.
Gives beans
Mario,
on
you feel like Mario would be number 1. I mean, the fact that it is number 2. Yeah. Okay. We'll go with that.
Beans on toast vibes. What the? Was I the only one that heard that? Like,
I know. Why was it funny when Ryan said it?
Well, no, because I didn't hear
I
you
didn't hear it either until he said
she said it under her breath, like beans on toast vibes. I'm like,
and like they be posting that on social media and like thinking like, oh, this shit's good. I'm like, stop posting that shit as if you're not convincing anybody that crap is good. Like, stop.
Let me see some of the super chats here. Skylar says, I miss Dreamcast guy Nate and miss Click. I think Click mentioned coming back if OJ painted his nails. So
yeah, I responded. I said I'll paint my nails black and red, Akatsuki style, and she didn't respond back. So I don't know.
You'll see Nate and Click will pop up. I'm sure you'll see Nate and Max will swing back by. Nate is on. He's on Game and Talk. He's on Direct Xbox. He just randomly pops in on Saturdays if he's even available. So we'll get him back. Is from Sokar, says just go balls to the wall with that modern Parasite Eve. Just go all out, full remake.
I'd love for a remake of that game to come out.
We'll get the Final Fantasy 17 team on it immediately.
As long as I don't mess with the story.
Brian says, "Hey guys, MVG, when's Toomba coming out? Don't forget to pre-order your copy of Toomba, everyone. It's a great game. Great.
Well, Brian,
game. Great game.
I can't tell you. Sorry.
Everyone try to get you to like just break NDA on air. Well, people are excited for it, MVG. So it'll be fun when you can finally talk about
what I
it.
will say.
So
it's in good hands.
There you go. We believe it. We believe it. Exciting stuff though for the Toomba fan. Toomba fans have been waiting a long time for this, so I'm glad to hear that.
It's Tomba, John, not Toomba. Tomba.
I call it Toomba.
Tomba. Tomba.
Call it Toomba.
Thank you for correcting him.
Is that what you say, Brian?
I say Tomba.
Yeah, that's what it is.
I call it Toomba.
Tomba.
Tomb rating.
This is from Darthus, who says, question for OJ. I've played through Xenoblade 1 through 3, including extra DLC like Torna and Redeemed. Should I play through Xenogears first or Xenosaga? Thanks.
You can just, if you're going to go that far back, just start with Xenogears and then work your way through Xenosaga. But the game that you need to really play in relation to it is Xenosaga 1 through 3. If you really want to get like, whatever, it would be Xenosaga. Gears just relates just some of the world themes, obviously the conduit, things like that. So some of the source of how things happen. But yeah, Saga would be the game that you really would want to play. But you can start with Gears though. Gears is great.
Tomba. So it's like Tom and then a ba.
And then in Europe it's Tombi with an I instead of an A. Did you know that?
What?
I'm serious.
That's kind of dope.
You're getting
the European version
for
of Tomba is Tombi.
Tombi?
Tombi.
Okay. From Tijo says, saw the Mega Man section on Newswave, and I thought we'd finally be getting X9. How dare you lie to us, John? Keep up the good work and all. Yeah, there people are remaking Mega Man 4, 5, and 6, and they're just completely doing it from scratch. And they finished 4, so you can download 4 and play it on your PC. No emulator required. Nobody says, as gamers, we have to push back with our dollars. Best way to double your money is fold it, put it back in your pocket. And they say, hi, Josie. And so Sokar says, you mean games like Spot on NES or Yo Noid? I remember playing both of these. I remember Cool Spot. Do you remember that? Graham Man says, this is the wake up OJ.
I'm awake.
Ticho says, wouldn't the iOS emulation thing be more for like Sega releasing their own Genesis emulator and collection as one app? That's how I see it.
That's a good point.
That'd
be the one way I see it approved. Again, I'm just very dubious as to this approval.
So does that mean that Nintendo could release NSO if they wanted to on it, an app, and then you just download the games normally through that.
John,
That would kind of be awesome.
We've talked about this before. Nintendo will never release anything other than on their own hardware.
Oh, well.
Well, what do you mean? They got Super Mario Run. We got a lot of mobile stuff.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying. They're not taking NSO from the Switch and putting it on PC or iOS or Android.
How many signups do you think they get first day for that on iOS?
Would they even disclose that?
It'd be something like, I feel like it'd be like a stupid number. Like millions of just immediate people like showing up for NSO. It's interesting. Although I feel like N64 games with a touchscreen would be kind of bad. This is from Hellman, who says, what happened to the chill intro music? Evan has that on his PC and we're using StreamYard and he's not here. But we'll get it worked out. Enigmatic Dream says, Apple trash is worth $2. Keep them out of gaming.
Enigmatic.
Man. Yep, enigmatic. Apple is trash. Z says, do you think standalone consoles will ever go away completely? What about AAA games?
No.
I think we'll have consoles pretty much for the rest of our lives. Yeah, I think so. I mean, think about how long generations last now. 7 or 8 years. So like 5 or 6 generations, left for most of us, some of us. And that's, yeah. So I think they'll be around for us. Yeah.
So like in 100 years, Josie, don't forget us, okay? Like when you're still alive somehow because of modern technology.
Yeah.
Remember the Spawncast, okay?
Oh yeah. Shout out the OGs. That's what I'll say. Yeah.
Spyro Jones says, yeah, but MVG, when is Sly Cooper 5 coming out?
I don't know anything about that game. Have to ask my friend Special Nick on that one. I think he knows more about that than I do.
Graham Man says, MVG, what's an easy engine to make games solo?
Game Maker is a good one. I even would say if you just want to just get stuck in to learn the basics of game development, not Clubhouse games. What's it called? What's the thing on Nintendo that they released to build your own games?
Game Garage.
Game Builder Garage. Yeah, that's a good one.
I do want to. I'll give a quick shout out to this. That game, Castaway, is made in Game Maker.
Yep, Game Maker's legit.
I was a little surprised.
Some commercial games run on Game Maker.
Yep, and it is free. It is a free.
Yep. It's free on the PC. If you want to obviously port to consoles, there's a license involved. But a lot of developers, they'll start on the PC. They'll get their game out on Steam as like a wish list thing, and but basically self-publish it on Steam. If it does well, then obviously then they have more leverage to bring it to consoles. Yeah, Game Maker is a good choice.
And then DC Fact, yes, the super chat is sponsored by Factor. Thank you, DC Fact. Thank you. Let me go around here. I do have to check Streamlabs as well. Let me start with, as we do some outros here, I'll start with Ryan. Ryan, where can everyone find you?
Over on YouTube at Mystic Ryan, covering PlayStation news every Friday. Thank you for having me, John.
Good to have Ryan here. Just another week or two, and people believe that you're a recurring member. So good stuff.
Number one guest.
Yeah, go over to Josie. Oh, wait, actually, hold on. I'll go to MVG. MVG, where can everyone find you?
You can find me not babysitting kids at YouTube, Modern Vintage Gamer. I have a video out on Monday about the Nintendo closure of the network for Wii U and 3DS and the Pretendo replacement. So check out the channel. Thanks for having me.
Josie.
You can find me. Yes. Actually, I just hit 15,000 subs on the stream, so thank you, everyone. That was good. That was pretty hype.
Wow.
So thank you.
Okay.
Awesome.
But yeah, you can find me on YouTube at Josie Will. I do a bunch of Nintendo stuff. I stream. I'm going to start streaming a little bit more, so that's fun. And yeah, Nintendo is really what I do. I'm also on Game and Talk. Check out Game and Talk. It's a podcast. It's really good. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, I see you keep streaming a lot of the classic games.
Yes, because I realized I'm gonna play them anyway, so I might as well stream them and like hang out, and like if I get lost, I can ask the chat, which is helpful. Yeah, it's been fun.
And what about OJ?
Yeah, find me right here on YouTube. I cover Nintendo Switch and RPG stuff. Pretty much got RPG news out almost every single day, and I stream pretty much daily as well. Got a cool bonus stream that we're doing tomorrow for the community as well. So if you want to come hang out, talk about video games, RPGs, what's coming out, all that good stuff. And yeah, I've got some Wii U stuff planned for next week, Monday, online gaming and stuff like as it shuts down. So if you guys want to come by and hang out and play some old Wii U games online, I'll be doing that too.
Yeah, definitely check out OJ's stream tomorrow or Sunday, especially since is that the afternoon he'll be streaming?
Yeah, it's like I'm gonna try to stream in the morning my time, so like afternoonish or so for East Coast peeps. So yeah,
people hanging out looking for something to do ahead of WrestleMania. Check out OJ's stream.
Absolutely, yeah.
Look at see Ryan Tox Mod says Mystic should be a regular. We'll look into it. We'll see what we can do. But thanks everyone for tuning in. Let me make sure. I said I would check Streamlabs real quick. Adam says, MVG, with limited run games doing more and more physical releases of Xbox One Series X games, will this potentially open up the door for getting a physical release of Diablo 2 Resurrected? Oh, wow.
Ooh. I don't really know. I don't work on the physical publishing side of the company. I'm just the developer. So I don't know. Sometimes they make announcements that I'm like, whoa, even I didn't see that coming. So yeah, it's hard for me to answer that question.
Yeah, MVG is the Carbon Engine guy. So whenever you see a game get announced and at the end says Carbon Engine, that is MVG. He is getting these things there, and they're stamping them on the disc. So that's their job. He gets the thing started. So, and he does not tell us anything. So we're usually the ones who are like, whoa, MVG was working on that the whole time. So that's usually how it goes. Geez, John O coming in big at the end here with the support. John O said, good to see y'all. Just popping in for a sec. Keep up the good work. Tell Dreamcast guy he missed a great at grand opening downtown. Take care, everyone.
You got to do the Dreamcast guy, John. You got to do it.
Dreamcast guy. He misses a great at grand opening downtown. Take care, everyone. Shout out to John O. Yeah, John, if you get out to too many games, let us know. If you just swing by the chat here, let us know before too many games so we can meet up with you there. He came out last year. It was pretty cool to get to meet everyone in person, especially John O. Shout out to John O, though, for the support. And I think that's everything here. Checked all that. Checked Streamlabs. Yep. Hellman, Z, Spyro Jones, Grandman, DC Fat Cat, John O. Okay. Shout out. And that's going to do it here for Spawncast episode 362. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I see Jordan Fringe was in the chat. We're going to get Jordan back here pretty soon.
Hey, what's up, Jordan?
Exciting. And hey, everyone enjoy. I know there's a lot of crossover in gaming and wrestling. Enjoy WrestleMania. I know it's like the Super Bowl for a lot of people. So have fun with that. We will see you guys next Saturday night, 9 p.m. Eastern time.